Coming up on Network Africa, Guinea's President Alpha Condé appoints Ibrahima Kassori Fofana as new Prime Minister amid rising political tension. Burundi approves new constitution extending presidential term limits from 5 to 7 years. Zimbabwe applies to rejoin the Commonwealth. To the program, I'm Millicent Walker. We begin in Guinea, where President Alpha Condé has appointed Ibrahima Kassori Fofana as the country's new prime minister amid heightened political tensions. Mr. Fofana, who is an economist, replaces Mamadi Youla, who resigned last week along with his government. Analysts say he will need to relaunch the economy and diffuse tensions following local elections, which the opposition says were marred by fraud and rioting. Mr. Fofana, an ally of the president, will also face scrutiny from critics who think Mr. Condé intends to change the constitution to remain in power. In Burundi, the Electoral Commission says the citizens have voted to extend presidential terms, potentially extending current leader Pierre Nkurunziza's rule to 2034. According to the provisional results, 73.6% voted in favor, 19.3% voted against, 4.1% of the votes were void and 3.2% abstained. More than 96% of the voting population cast a ballot in the referendum on Thursday last week. There is currently a two-term limit in place for president. The changes could also allow Mr. Nkurunziza to contest the 2020 elections and potentially enjoy another 2 terms, as under a new constitution he would start from scratch. He is a former rebel leader who came to power at the end of Burundi's ethnically charged civil war in 2005. And 15 years after leaving, Zimbabwe has applied to rejoin the Commonwealth. Commonwealth Secretary General Patricia Scotland says she is delighted to receive the application from Zimbabwe's president, but the Southern African country will only return when the conditions are right. President Emmerson Mnangagwa, who came to power in November after longtime leader Robert Mugabe was ousted, has said repeatedly he wants to rebuild international ties. Zimbabwe withdrew from the Commonwealth in 2003, having initially joined in 1980 after its membership was suspended amid reports of election rigging. But in the meantime, President Emmerson Mnangagwa has set up a special team to fight corruption, saying he's not happy with the pace of prosecution. The team is to directly answer to him, but will also collaborate with other state agencies, including the National Prosecuting Authorities. The state-owned Herald newspaper reports that the objective of the team is to improve efficiency in the fight against all forms of corruption. Mr. Mnangagwa has vowed to fight corruption, what he has described an impediment to the country's economic growth. However, a Zimbabwean academic has reacted to a video of the president making the announcement of this special team, calling it a kangaroo court. Well, for more on this is the Chairman, Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, Mr. Debo. Good to have you on the program.
It's my pleasure being here.
So essentially, what do you think about this, the decision by President Emmerson Mnangagwa to set up a special team to fight corruption? He says he's not happy with the pace of prosecution.
Well, nobody can be happy with the pace of prosecution as bequeathed on the country by the former president, Robert Mugabe. Mugabe was removed, due to monumental corruption and corruptive activities that he perpetrated while he was there for 30 years. Those 30 years were a kind of years that put Zimbabwe under the stranglehold of corrupt leaders. And these corrupt leaders, perpetrated their trade unfettered. The corruption in the public sector became so worrisome to the extent that it could be described as a state urge, because nobody seemed to be oversighting the work of their version of MDAs.
Good thing you mentioned oversight, because now that the president has said a special team, a special, the academic is saying kangaroo court, wouldn't it be a lord unto himself, matters coming to him, who gets to check? Shouldn't there be an institution?
You discover that anywhere in the world, when you try to fight corruption, corruption fights back. When you introduce a novel idea that could put corruption under perpetual check.
But some would argue that means it has failed. How can corruption fight back?
The truth is that it has not failed, because look, even if you want to kill a goat, that goat will want to fight back. It's only that you have to overwhelm it with superior power, authority. Yes. This is the technique that the present president of Zimbabwe is trying to apply, called corruption busters. These corruption busters are going to work directly with him because he doesn't want his own records to be stained the way his predecessor's record was stained with the corruption. And you also know how Grace, also Grace, the corruption, failed. And so all of this is what the present president wants to depart from. And to have a clear departure from the recent past, he needed to put a different strategy in the fighting against corruption. Corruption busters are going to be like a task force, they're going to take a look into whatever transaction is taking place, especially in the procurement sector.
And with that, do you think that he will succeed, especially with presidential, parliamentary, and council elections coming?
Exactly. You see, there was electoral corruption even in the days of Mugabe. One of the corrupt practices to be busted by the present busters is electoral corruption, and that is one of the reasons why one of the qualities that the Commonwealth will look at before Zimbabwe can ever be readmitted into their fold. So he wants election that is going to conduct. The present president, I don't want, his name is tongue twisting. Okay, so wants to conduct free, fair, credible election. And one of the things is that he wants to invite the Commonwealth leaders, Commonwealth countries, to come and observe that election.
But is the current president of Zimbabwe corrupt-free?
Well, nobody is absolutely corrupt-free, but so far it's been so good because there hadn't been any, advertised, corruption practices that he has perpetrated while he was out of government. So we still believe that even if he has corruption baggages, he has tried to dislodge those baggages. And since nobody has indicted him, then he has a free hand to operate as an anti-corruption president. And that exactly is what Africa needs. You remember that Zimbabwe comes 163rd position out of about 170 countries that was assessed by the Transparency International. So that means that you have to, just like Nigeria, Zimbabwe needs to do a great work to achieve a great feat in the fight against corruption. This is what the present president in Nigeria is also trying to do. Everywhere in Africa before recent times were riddled by corruption. And they are led by those leaders who do not see corruption as an anathema. They see corruption as a way of life. So, and they are the champions of corruption instead of them being the champions of corruption busting.
Back to Zimbabwe, and a good thing you mentioned Chogum. We hear they made the application to rejoin since they left in 2003. Would it be granted? I mean, we've heard the response saying when the conditions are right.
You have just read out now that Patricia Scotland has seems to be excited that Zimbabwe wants to join. They actually want more members, you know, because Commonwealth. What do you call it now? It's voluntary. You can free exit. I mean, free entry, free exit is it. But they want more members so that the more the merrier it is. But then if Zimbabwe actually qualifies, I mean, fulfills all the conditions, it's going to be a glory to the present Secretary General of the Commonwealth.
And also, you know, Zimbabwe would benefit. I'm sure there are benefits.
Of course, in their defense, in their trade activities, they will have access to loans and economic assistance from other Commonwealth countries. So it's going to be a lot of things. As at now, Zimbabwe is like a pariah nation within the Commonwealth, like an outcast. So they want to come back home. So when you get back home to where you belong, you feel happy among your folks, and that's exactly what's going to happen to Zimbabwe if they are readmitted. And I'm sure that with the way the Commonwealth leaders are handling it, they want Zimbabwe back.
All right, we'd like to thank you so much, the Chairman, Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, Mr. Debo, for coming on Network Africa.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.